France has been hit by a wave of police protests, with officers venting their anger over working conditions and the rise of violence against security forces. Police say they can no longer protect themselves while on duty.
There's so much anger, it boils over. The police are fearful today. We've become targets. We need to use the law. Thugs need to be punished. They're the ones who should be wary.
And the demonstrations were initially sparked by a petrol bomb attack on a police car in a Paris suburb 2 weeks ago. 4 officers were injured and 1 was left fighting for his life, but no arrests were made. And this troubling image was captured just 2 weeks earlier. Molotov cocktails were thrown at riot police during clashes amid labor protests in Paris. 5 officers were hospitalized after the violent demonstrations. Attacks against police in France are of particular concern in so-called no-go zones, where officers say they can't apply the law due to migrant violence. And here's what a French police union chief told us.
There
are certain problem areas in France where police cannot intervene because it's not safe for them. There's no other way to call these areas other than no-go zones.
But Prime Minister Manuel Valls claimed earlier this month that such no-go zones don't exist, sparking a furious response from officers. RT's Anastasia Churkina traveled to one such neighborhood, which has been accused of being out of control.
So we're now in the north of Paris, said to be one of the neighborhoods where gangs operate, and most Parisians say that people don't usually come here unless they're coming here to either buy drugs. Some have told us that people come here if they want to get weapons, and this is one of the areas where every single expert and police member we've spoken to has said that really not a good idea to go.
Are so-called no-go zones in France a reality? The French government says no.
This government does not recognize these areas of lawlessness, just like the previous one.
But the police have been telling a different story. Nightly protests in Paris have seen policemen come out onto the streets to speak out.
There is a lot of bad boys who want to kill a policeman.
Our colleagues are injured every day. It's getting worse and worse. We've had enough. We're sick of it. When it comes to these lawless areas, it's a reality. It's not fiction.
This daytime attack on police in Paris earlier this month has sparked a debate in the country about neighborhoods that make it increasingly dangerous and difficult for police to enforce the law. France's National Crime Observatory says the number of police and gendarmes injured while on duty rose by 25% in the last 5 years.
Le paysage français a évolué très rapidement.
The landscape of the country has been changing very rapidly. Mass migration has produced its results. Today we have entire zones that are fully controlled by tribal groups. This situation unraveled at a speed that no one anticipated.
C'est des lieux qui se mettent à côté de la République.
There are communities that exist alongside the Republic, areas that have their own rules, their own society, their own economy, that are often based on trafficking, mostly the trafficking of drugs. So we have 2 types of societies living side by side, the rest of France and then these certain areas.
We visit several such areas in a car with tinted windows so our cameras aren't visible.
We know that whenever journalists have traveled to these neighborhoods, usually it's recommended to at least try to not get out of the car because media have gotten their equipment stolen and attacked. I mean, obviously this is the kind of neighborhood where locals are not really interested in having cameras pointed at them. So we also know that there's smaller streets here where gangs have a sort of operation going where you can't really get in without being questioned about what you're doing there, because some of the locations where people sell drugs, and if they see somebody who doesn't belong in the area, it becomes a bit of a problem.
In the latest incident this weekend, a bus was destroyed here by a fire started by 3 masked individuals.
Même si les policiers bénéficiaient de tout ce qu'ils demandaient.
Even if the police get all the means they're demanding, all the extra men they need, this will not solve the problem. because the problem is much more social and much more profound. Enormous immigration that was imposed on the French people. The situation will continue aggravating and lead to a crisis much more serious than what we're experiencing today.
Anastasia Churkina, RT, Paris.